Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Monkey Patching Podcast, where we go bananas about all things lazy inputs, physical AI, and more. My name is Murillo. I'm joined by my friend Bart. Hey, Bart.
Hey, Murillo.
How are you?
I'm doing well. What about you?
I'm feeling better. I'm recovered almost from the
That's good.
sickness. Yeah, indeed. Stronger than ever. So happy to be here.
You're a bit on potato quality webcam.
Yeah. Maybe it's, I don't know if we talked about it on the monkey patching, but usually we have the iPhone, right, to connect. I even have like
As a webcam,
device here as a
the
webcam.
continuity
Yeah.
camera, I think it's called.
Continuity camera, yeah. And it's like, as the Apple ecosystem, right, it works super good. It just works, except when it doesn't. And then when it doesn't, it's like, it just doesn't, like, you don't know how to debug it because usually it just connects, right?
But it's really a problem with Chrome, right? It's not really Apple, like it's Chrome.
It is just a Chrome thing. So I even switched to Safari because the Apple features actually work better as well with Safari, like the passwords and everything. But like with Chrome is always a hassle. Like you have to close lock all the apps, put on horizontal, and then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And there's no support as well. I think we only saw one article. I don't even know if it was a Reddit thing that someone
That's
just kind of said.
It's not something that is widely discussed, huh?
Exactly. It's like in Chrome as well. Like it's like the biggest browser, and like I don't know. So it's weird. So
we did try for 5 minutes, and then we said this is maybe just good for like having a retro 90s look.
Yeah, it's like never look better. You know,
looks authentic.
You don't see my pores today, so it's fine. All right, what do we have, Bart? Should you start or should I start?
I'll kick it off. X. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. X. Yeah. You know?
I don't know either. I don't know.
XPENG
sounds right. XPENG sounds right. Yeah.
XPENG used its 2025 AI Day to pitch a pivot to physical AI, unveiling VLA 2.0, a Robotaxi program, the next-gen Iron Humanoid, and a flying car, signaling ambitions beyond EVs. The company touts concrete mass production timelines and even named Volkswagen the launch customer for VLA 2.0.
It's cool, huh?
If you followed the news a little bit, I think what people have probably followed is the unveiling of the Humanoid robot.
Yes.
Which moves very, very human-like.
Yes.
Because it moves very human-like, they also wanted to, well, it was a bit of a marketing, of course, but they wanted to prove that it was not actually a human in a suit. They cut open basically the clothing on the leg of the robots while on stage.
Yeah. I saw that a video. So there was a LinkedIn X post, right? But there's also a promotional video, and it even shows like the thing dancing a bit, right? And I think I saw afterwards it says this is not sped up. This is really the sophisticated robot, really, right? So looks really cool.
It looks very impressive, huh?
Yeah.
So what they want to do with it very near term is that they are thinking for next year for commercial service roles. So like quote unquote simple things like store greeter, guided tours, shopping assistants, maybe like a traffic diversion for like when there are like big football games or something like that. And there's also going to be industrial pilots at Boa Steel, a steel manufacturer, for inspection work.
So they will use the robot to perform inspections.
That's how I understand it, yeah. Exactly. It's for now it's still quite, let's say, small batches, but they want to do mass production by end of 2026. No official price yet announced, but there are some rumors that it's going to be around 150K per unit.
Are you going to buy one?
It's a bit steep, eh? To like greet me at my door. Welcome home, Bart. Ching.
Like, you know, just waving. They also had like flying cars, which is basically like a helicopter, right? So more like a helicopter than a car. They also had like self-driving cars, I think I saw in the promotional video thing, right? So they also, and I think this is all self-flying, self-driving, right? As well. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So they, not sure how integrated all this is, but they presented very integrated. So they have like what they call their robotic stacks, which is like VLT, which is a Vision Language Task Model. They have a VLA, Vision Language Action Model, and a VLM, Vision Language Model. And that stack they reuse for the humanoid, for autonomous driving. But like I say, I'm not sure how actually reusable that is, or if it's just presented that way, that they have like this AI brain that they can use for every circumstance.
In any case, it looks cool.
It's a company that in the past has focused already a lot on autonomous driving assistance. And I think because of that also has a lot of access to training data. I had some information on how much, which was actually quite interesting. And they have around, they trained around on 100 million real driving clips, which is significant, right?
Yeah, indeed.
That means that you already have like...
Vision-based.
Sorry?
It's all vision-based then.
That's how I understand it. That's vision-based, yeah.
Okay. Did you see the video of the Tesla? They had basically a big panel with painted, like the coyote. What's like those joints?
Wile E. Coyote?
Wile E. Coyote, you know how like there was a scene that like I think they paint a tunnel in a rock and then it just hits, and then they tried the same thing with the Tesla, and actually the Tesla didn't stop at all. It just went through the it was like a bit, yeah, indeed. So they were just trying to
because it's vision-based, right?
Because it's vision-based, indeed.
And
but I mean,
sensor-based.
Because, I don't know. I think they're trying to make a point, right? That Teslas are unreliable. I think was also when Elon was taking a decline, right? But I still feel like it's probably more reliable than sonar, right? Like, I mean, I realistically probably need both to cover your bases, right? But I'm not sure if I don't know, because I know there was a project that touched a bit on like these sonars, right? And it was super hard to debug because the signal's very noisy. And then sometimes you get like a signal and you don't know if you cannot diagnose it very well, right? And I think if you have images, it's much easier to build something that is more robust, that you can explain why this and why that is happening, no? So,
let's see. I mean, I have the feeling like that fully autonomous driving, like it gets promised every year, and we still haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I was actually thinking of that when I was watching the video as well. Is like it will happen at one point, right? Like if you have all the time infinity,
of course,
in the future.
Like, if you look at what is already happening with Waymo in the US, like these are autonomous cabs, right? But
that's true. That's true.
But let's see when it gets here.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the thing, right? I think I'm just surprised that it's taking too long. And one last question I wanted to ask as well is robots with humanoids. Sometimes I wonder, like, we're just doing this so they're human friendly, right? But as a mechanical thing, is this the best way to design robots?
I think this is a very good question.
You know what I'm saying?
I think take for example the example that they had there, like support or whatever kind of support in a steel factory. I think it's probably going to be more cost efficient to build something that is specific for a certain task, and it's probably not going to look like a humanoid.
Exactly, right? Like just the fact like put wheels and then you don't have to deal with the whole way of people walking, right? Like it's just, I don't know.
At the same point, long term, but it's probably not in the coming years, like humanoid form is maybe way more like flexible. Like you can do, like you purchase one unit for, what was it, 150K, and then you can do all kinds of things with it instead of having like to buy something that is dedicated for a specific task.
Well, I mean,
but that to me is long term.
You can do all sorts of things that you can imagine yourself doing, right? So it's really a replacement to you. But there are other things as well that you cannot do, right? And maybe you want something that is better suited for that task. Like fitting into tight spaces, or I don't know.
A robot with a jetpack on its back, so it can also fly.
That's it. Okay, no more questions.
And I can sit on its neck.
That's
it. Can fly me places.
Like huge shoulders, tiny neck, and you can just like. All right, cool. Yeah, nice to see this. I mean, it's fun to see these things as well, right? But this looks very. And did you know this company before as well? Or did it also surprise you? Yeah. Okay. Cool. What's next? We have Cognee. So Cognee is an open source, quote unquote, memory layer for AI agents, combining vector search with a graph database to keep knowledge both searchable and linked. It swaps classic RAG for modular ECL pipelines for self-hosting, aiming for durable context with minimal code. Hence the quote unquote 6 lines promise. That's actually what they say here. Memory for AI agents in 6 lines of code. So Actually, I was Mehdi, so a friend of ours. He was looking for, I think, TUI options or something for his project, and then someone mentioned this, right? So the ECL pipelines. Let me see where I can find it here. ECL. It's extract, cognify, load. That's what they call it. Where is it? Yeah, extract, cognify, load. So Cognee is it's an application. I think they need another like so it's not just like a package, right? You also need a solution in the back, like a graph database or something. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest, but you probably need something infrastructure that follows it as well. The idea is to give memory to your AI agents. Memory in the sense of like if you talk to it today, tomorrow you want to be able to remember what you said today, right? And it can scale. The 6 lines of code is this. So like you have a cognee.add. So basically you can add documents. So if you have like a book
Whatever
in
text,
TXT,
basically.
whatever, exactly, whatever text. And then I guess you have to hit cognify, memify. So this is the memory algorithms to the graph. So I think this is to add a knowledge graph. So everything is graph based. And then you can actually search, right? So what does Cogni do if you have a book or if you have a lot of interactions with it? I think the way that I saw on the demo, a video demo, was that they add some tools. They add some functions, some Cogni functions as tools to an LLM. So the LLM can also say, add this to the memory graph, basically, or search this from the graph, right? And then when you interact with it, you can, now this is actually a little image. Let me see if I can play real quick. That was also an image of the graph that they show, right? So that's why they say it's also graph rag. So it's just something to kind of, they call it to add memory to your agents, which I guess it's very vague. Like Claude, I think, said that adding memory is just like editing a TXT, MD file, right? So the way that they tackle this is more on a graph search kind of thing. Yeah, this video is not playing nice with me. But it looks like something like this. So you can also query, you can also visualize the graph and see what are the entities, how's the information really dense or not dense. The way I kind of, maybe an analogy you can make with this is also like Obsidian mind maps, you know, how you have like the different articles and then they interact with each other. It's something like that as well. What do you think, Bart?
How I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong. People are probably familiar with this, like with if you're using ChatGPT, it has the ability to remember conversations that you already had, and it will pick up, like if you've already interacted with it, then it will know that Murillo is a CTO at Data Roots, and like it has some information about you, right? What I understand here, Cognee, like basically allows to give this memory feature to any kind of LLM or LLM-based agent that you, and it's probably like also more richer. Like it's not only based on the conversations, also you can probably point it to these are these documents that are also important for me as knowledge that I want in my quote unquote memory / brain.
Yes. So there's that. It replaces RAG in the sense that it's a graph database behind, so it's not just like vector search or all these things. But I think what they also mention is they try to be in between sessions, in between code restarts, right? So if you say something to chat, or again, I think it's like if you have an application, you have a customer service bot, you talk to it today, and then tomorrow you talk to it, so we can actually fetch the interactions that you had in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Even if you shut it down or something. And it's not as simple as adding everything in the conversation history because there's always a limit. So the way that they go about this is with the graph database, right? The graph store as well. I thought it was interesting. I think it's also the reason I also wanted to share, I think it was the first more mature. It looks more mature, right? And the first more mature solution for graph that combines a bit like the graph databases and LLM memory. Quote unquote, right? I think there was also Source Graph that had like a coding agent that also, because Source Graphs, I think, builds a graph of your code base, right? But I hadn't seen a lot of these things before. So that's why I thought it was interesting. And actually made me wonder why I don't see more graph databases or graph networks when it talks about LLM memory.
Yeah. And to me, it's like it's a bit of a, how should I put it, a bit of a vague boundary between memory and knowledge, right? Like, because to me, purely memory is like, I know that I had this discussion with you already. Like, it's not like I'm also going to inject like, this is my quote unquote pre-existing memory or knowledge for everybody that I start a conversation with. Like these are documents like what you typically have in a RAG system, right?
Yeah, indeed.
But what I understand, if I look at the documentation, I'm not 100% sure if I'm correct, but it combines these two a bit.
I think it does. I think it does combine. Again, I need to dive into more, but I think they would also have like a shared. In the examples I saw, to be honest, it was only one graph, right? But I would imagine that if you're actually building something, because they do mention interacting with customers, right? Like if I talk to you today, like if you build a chatbot for like an application that we have, you want that bot to remember the previous experiences that it had. So I wonder if there's like a bit of like two graphs that like one is a shared one and one is more like personal to you, if you can set it up on the database level. But
good question. I'm also interested by this, how they call this this pipeline, like an ECL pipeline, extract, quantify, load. It's a bit of a different way of thinking about ELT, basically.
Exactly.
Or ETL, maybe more.
ETL. Yeah, indeed. I also thought like, but it says so, and this is from the first sentence on the README, right? Like, use your data to build personalized dynamic memory for AI agents. Cognee lets you replace RAG with scalable and modular ECL, so extract, cognify, load pipelines. So yeah, again, they also put a bit as like a replacement of RAG, right? So
I'm wondering for what use cases this becomes crucial, because it's also like it's complex to have. Like if it would just be like a customer support conversation history, I mean, that is in the end like you can simplify it as a TXT file, right? Like it becomes like I'm wondering like what you kind of use cases you would definitely go for this. And I also think like if there are a lot of use cases where this becomes relevant, like it's a matter of time that like one of the big providers like OpenAI or Anthropic or whoever like comes up with their own service offering around this.
Yeah, that's actually very true. But I think that's the case for most LLM application services, right? That's true. I'm wondering, like, I'm thinking a bit with you. If you have a chatbot to help you buy things, maybe, so you remember what are the past things that you wanted to buy and how they relate and how you related to those things as well. I don't know. I think my mind goes a lot to like networks, right? So like social, I mean, even the examples, I think there was like a social network kind of thing, like I talked to this person, I send this a friend request, or like if Meta has like a little chatbot of like create an event and invite to these people, and then maybe you can have like these entities and goes. But I'm not 100% sure either. And I'm not 100% sure also, even if you just replace RAG with graphs, what will happen, right? Like in practice, would you get better results? Would you not? Can you do a mix somehow? Not sure. I think the thing they said, so they do have an open source, and this is open source. They also have Cognee Cloud, right? So it's the same. Exactly, yeah. So I think that's a bit their business, right? And there was some awards as well on the repo, right? The product of the day and the repo of the day.
Nice.
Got me curious. I don't have a use case for it either, but maybe I just need to be a bit more creative, right? What else?
Python is set to add explicit lazy imports, letting developers defer module loading until first used to speed startup and cut memory. The accepted proposal targets Python 3.15 and cites potential 50 to 17% startup gains, while keeping normal inputs unchanged for backwards compatibility. Explicit lazy imports in Python. What is this, Marilo?
Yes, so PEP is a Python enhancement proposal. So basically this is, anyone can create these things, right? So basically they want to add a new feature to Python. In this case, it's a big feature because it adds a new keyword. Before I talk about what the actual change is, lazy imports, as I understand, basically is usually in Python, the best practice or clean code, right? You add your imports in the beginning of the file, but that means that every time the file is run, the first thing that it does is to import everything, which is considered good practice. But that means that if there is a dependency, something you're importing in the beginning of the file, but you don't use it, or you only use when there's one function that you need to call, that means that you need to pay for that cost of doing the imports in the very beginning, even though you may never actually use that function, right?
And I'll maybe add an example just to help understand why this can be a problem. Like if you say import my AI helper, and that AI helper then loads a big model into memory, which takes a long time, a few gigabytes. Like it will slow you. Like you will import it at the start of your application. It will slow everything down basically.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, maybe a question as well. If you import that file in many places, does that get loaded many times?
No, normally not.
Normally not, right? Yeah.
No.
But I know that there's a lot of people that have actually gained a lot of speed. I think the one that I remember very clearly was the Python package manager before UV. It was called Hatch. Hatch also used lazy imports. So basically you just import inside functions, right? So whenever the function is called, do that. But even if there's two functions, they use the same import. You need to duplicate the code, yada yada. So that's basically lazy imports. You import it exactly before you need it. And the explicit lazy import of this enhancement proposal for Python 3.15, and which actually was already accepted, which means that Python 3.15 will have that. You have a new keyword that you can add before import. So if you type, instead of typing import JSON, you just write lazy import JSON. That means that Python won't actually import the package until it actually needs to use it. Right? And everything happens behind the hood, right? Under the hood. So, or if you have like lazy from JSON import dumps, then there you go. And then
And
they
it will
also
only
show
be actually imported at the first time that you use it instead of at the
exactly.
beginning of the script.
Yes, exactly.
And people, like you were explaining, people had some workarounds before this, like
Yeah,
by having your import statement in a function, and then the first time the function gets called, only
yeah.
then the import runs. But I think it's considered a little bit unpythonic in a sense that you don't have a full overview on all your dependencies at the beginning of your file, basically.
Yeah, I'm also wondering if you can, because if you have that and you have like circular imports as well, you won't find it out until you execute the code, right?
With
So
lazy, you mean?
yeah, if you
Lazy
had
import.
lazy imports in the
Yeah, good question. I don't know if there are any checking utilities for that. That's a good
yeah.
question.
So yeah, I mean, they also had some syntax errors, right? So if you try to lazy import inside a function, so basically try to do what people did before with lazy imports with the actual lazy keyword, then there's going to be some syntax errors. But in a nutshell, if you have a lazy import JSON here, and this is an example I'm showing you on the screen, you only see actually the module inside the imported packages after you used it. So, which could again improve the performance of a lot of things, right? So, I thought it was pretty cool. I also
Maybe also
saw some. Tell me.
maybe also interesting is that I didn't follow the discussion on this proposal at all, but like it was created the 2nd of October and it was already approved the 3rd of November, which is very fast. So I think there is a strong consensus in the community that this is something that is needed.
But I think also it's who wrote it. So I think Pablo Galindo Salgado, he's really big in the Python community. He's Spanish, and he was also a release manager for previous Python versions.
Yeah.
So I think because he also wrote it, he probably already pinged some people, like, or there's already some noise.
He did the politics.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, a pep that actually took a long time was the log files in Python. That one took so long. Like there was so many versions of it. And one thing as well, like I was talking to people that maintain this, and maybe this is not news to you, but when I first heard it, I was surprised that basically there are these peps and then they get accepted and people work on this basically. So basically the pep should just describe how the thing should go, and then someone actually goes and implements this and merges into the Python. But just because a pep is accepted doesn't mean it gets implemented. So there's no no one can make anything. Yeah, no one can force anyone to implement anything. And also things can get merged in that there was no pep technically, right? So if you are a core contributor of Python, you can always merge code and do all these things in the Python, like in the main Python repo. But normally when this happens, and this is what I heard as well, that people always are quick to revert these changes. So basically the community is self-organized, but there's no hierarchy between who accept these peps, which today is the steering committee, and the actual what gets written up and deployed. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Anything else here, Bart?
No, not really.
Would you use lazy imports?
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've had situations in the past where I had imports and functions just because it was way more efficient, and this makes it simpler.
Okay, cool. What was that? What was the case actually that you needed performance, that you needed lazy import
multiple
stuff?
ones. For example, I forgot what the exact thing was, but it was a library that had that support to read multiple types of files. I don't know what I used anymore, but for a certain file type, maybe I use pandas. For another file type, I used a parquet, and like you had things that were only like used in specific scenarios. So you would only import it if you were in that scenario.
I see. Yeah, and I know pandas is a big one as well, like big dependency. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Next, we have the International Criminal Court will migrate from Microsoft Office to OpenDesk, an EU-backed open source suite, an emblem of Europe's push for digital sovereignty. OpenDesk is built by Germans Zentis and tied to a new EU-level initiative amid lingering tensions over dependencies on US tech.
Yeah, I thought this was an interesting news article. So the ICC is the International Criminal Court?
I think that's what it is. International Criminal Court, yeah.
Let me just verify that. International Criminal Court. Oh, yeah. Phew. We don't need an edit. So they're switching away from Microsoft Office, basically, to OpenDesk. And I never heard of OpenDesk. I think that was one interesting one. If you go to the website of OpenDesk, opendesk.eu, it shows all the type of applications they have. It's like basically like the Office suite, but an open source alternative. You have calendar, you have chat, you have docs, you have email, file storage, notes, projects, tasks, video calls. It sounds like quite a complete suite. Never tried it, so I can't give any opinion on that. So it's interesting to hear these movements to, let's say, a more sovereign tool stack, especially for something that is for something that should be probably sovereign, something like the International Criminal Court, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Linked to that, what some people have hinted to, that this might also be a reaction to the geopolitics on this, because the Trump administration, they put sanctions on members of the ICC already in the first term of the Trump administration. They were reverted by the Biden administration. There are new sanctions all placed on ICC members due to ICC stand on Israel, stuff like this. Let's not go into details.
But then the sanctions were like from Microsoft or like the
No,
government
they came
somehow?
from the US.
Okay.
And basically on people of the ICC, they took away a visa in the first example. But it shows a bit like something like the ICC should not be pressured into tools that are in the end, like you can put export restrictions on this. Like if you're heavily dependent on Microsoft, you don't have a good relationship with the US government. There is a potential thing that they put when they put sanctions on you, that there are export controls, that you're not allowed to use these things anymore. Like it's all of this is it sounds far-fetched, but like when you're such an organization, like there's a good reason to try to be as autonomous as possible, right? Because otherwise you might be biased in whatever you do.
Yeah, and I think you say sounds far-fetched, but at the same time,
these
Trump
days
administration
there's very little that is far-fetched, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Every day there is news and what? Like, exactly. No, this can't happen. Yeah.
It's just fetched, right? Like it's just there. Yeah, I think they said that earlier this year on the article as well, says that it was reported, so Microsoft rejected, but it was reported that Microsoft had also suspended his email account as well. So like an administrator from an ICC official, right? So, I mean, again, maybe it's not true. It was rejected and all these things, but I do think it makes sense. One thing I was a bit surprised because I never heard of this. I guess this is because when I thought of Microsoft Office, I thought of like LibreOffice, right?
Yeah, I guess this is also what comes to mind.
Yeah, but this is also much broader than that, right? Like I think there's a lot of services here because I think LibreOffice
this is more. This is not necessarily like an Office replacement; it's more like a Microsoft 365 replacement.
Yeah, exactly.
With like a Teams alternative, like a context alternative, like
which is more impressive.
User
right?
management.
There's a lot more here. There's a lot more here. No, it's really cool. I wonder, like in the website I'm showing you on the screen for people listening. The website looks nice. It looks modern as well. It doesn't look.
I'm wondering if in Belgium or in Flanders they've also explored this. We'll have an interview in probably in December with a representative of Flanders government. We'll make sure to ask her.
Yeah, we're gonna put down the question there, right?
Yeah.
And actually, how does this is open source, but is it also operating models? Can you you host it yourself, or do they have a cloud offering as well? There we go. You can deploy in
I
your
think
own data
it's both,
center.
right?
Yeah, SaaS and confidential cloud. Okay, looks cool. Looks cool. Again, I'm very curious how this works, because also a lot of people are not super happy with the Microsoft 365 stack either, right?
Yeah, there's a lot. Maybe another debate, right?
Another debate. Yeah. I'm just yeah. I will say though, sometimes Teams for me it feels a bit bloated. Like
Teams, yeah, I'm not a Teams fan here. I
it
do
takes so
think
much memory. Yeah, tell me. I feel
that
there's a hot take coming.
especially like Excel, there is no alternative to Excel.
Yeah, that is true. Excel, I think, is the one thing that you really there's no competition, right? So yeah, it's true. But they have a spreadsheet solution here.
Yeah, but there are like tons of spreadsheet solutions, and it's always like,
Yeah.
No, we should try it, right? We should. There's probably a demo somewhere. We should give it a test run at one point.
We'll give it a test. Yeah, indeed. What else do we have, Bart?
Again, interesting news from LLM land. moonshotai Kimi K2 thinking is an open source thinking model that interleaves reasoning with tool calls across long sequences, built on a trillion parameter MOE model with a 6K token context. It emphasizes native INT4 inference and claims stable behavior over 200 to 300 consecutive tool invocations. Kimi K2 thinking, it's a thinking version of the Kimi K2 model, was released a few days ago.
I think so. Let me check.
And it's actually a very good model.
You tried it, or
I didn't try it.
vibes?
No, I looked at the benchmarks.
You didn't try it yourself.
So if you look at what we typically discuss is coding. So on the SWE bench, it's still Sonnet 4.5, then closely behind GPT-5. And then closely behind that is K2 thinking, like it trails only by a few points. For reasoning and math, GPT-5 is strongest, followed by K2 thinking, and only then by Claude. So it's that's surprising.
Yeah.
There's also actually on some agentic tool calling challenges, it outperforms even GPT.
Oh, well, that's impressive. I think especially the name of the game now seems to be tool calling, right? I mean, now if you have to choose a model to to really build an agent, and calling the right tools is really it's like 90% of the job. But having a good model there is makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's also Chinese, no?
Yeah, so Kimi's K2 model, it comes from Moonshot, I think it's called Moonshot Labs. It's a company where a few big backers, everybody will know Alibaba, for example. They're one of the main investors in Moonshot. I think it's been for, I want to say a long time, but everything is still very short. I want to say for the last 2 years. But it has gone a bit unnoticed, I want to say. It's a bit... I think in the European community, I think DeepSeek got a lot more attention, and not necessarily because it was way better or something. It uses a bit the same training approach as DeepSeek for the original K2 model. This thinking model is rumored, only rumors, that to have cost the training cost only $4.3 million.
That's it. Pocket change. Well, compared to what we see, other numbers we see.
Also interesting is the cost. So if you use it via API, we already discussed it's actually quite good performance, right? There are some things on which it outperforms the other big players. If you look at input per 1 million input tokens, so Kimi K2 thinking cost 60 cents. GPT-5 is $1.25. Claude Sonnet 4.5 is $3. So it's like a fraction of the input token cost. For the output token, it's the difference is even bigger. So it's super cheap compared to these other providers. So it's very, very aggressively priced, right?
Yeah. I think
what is also interesting, it's an open weights model, so you can actually download it and run it yourself.
And have you ever done it? How feasible it is though to run these things?
For the average hobbyist at home, it's not feasible.
Yeah.
But if you're, let's say we were discussing the ICC, if you're a large organization and you want an in-house model, I think it's definitely feasible. To me, this also shows a bit the LLMs itself, they've become a bit a commodity. You have actually, something that we didn't expect to see at all 2 years ago.
Yeah.
you now have like literally open weights models that more or less compete with the latest OpenAI and Anthropic model.
Yeah, indeed, that's true. That's true. And do you think this is so? The Chinese models, as far as I know, they are open weights. No, like I think there was
A lot of
Quen,
them, not all, but
DeepSeek, but like the big ones that I remember is like Kimi, Quen, and DeepSeek. Or am I
yeah, I
forgetting
think
another
this is the
one?
most well known. We actually discussed another one, but I forgot the name. But I
Yeah, I
think
think
those
me
three are the
too.
most well known. Yeah,
And they're all open weights, right?
they're all open weights, and there are actually some rumors that China is also doing this very strategically. Like there's a lot of rumors that these are also government-backed funding
Yeah.
models behind this. That is also a bit of a way to basically dump AI tech in the global market to upset the competitive landscape, basically. Because
Which is US.
which is the US, and
Yeah.
I think if the reality becomes that LLMs have become more or less a commodity, I think at that point, like the only difference you can really make is like the tool set around it, but it's way harder to compete on that, right?
Yeah, indeed.
And I think if
Yeah.
they really it does this like as like this is a dumping mechanism, but we just dump AI tech on the global market, this might be very hard for the US, right? Like the US economy, if you take away all the AI companies, it hasn't grown. And in some domains, actually negative.
Interesting.
Because it looks like on the stock market a very good year, but it's only driven by AI related companies.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, but it's not so surprising. I can imagine how that's the case. And do you think this is the strategy? I mean, I think it's hard to say, right? I think for sure they thought about it when they made it open,
Well,
right?
you can also look at it more from a, because this sounds very aggressive, right? Like if it's really to upset the current
Yeah.
global economy. But you can also say like China in the quote unquote Western world historically doesn't have a very strong name when it comes to really like having a very, let's say, trust relationship. Like we trust these companies to serve us, and
Yeah.
so they have to overcome this. I think because of this, like it's hard for them to create a new OpenAI or a new Anthropic. But by dumping these technologies as open source, like everybody can use it, and everybody is using it, because everybody that is today running an in-house model, there's a good chance that they're using Quen, for example. Like Quen has been very big, like it's very easy to retrain it and to fine tune it. And like it builds this trust because we are building on these open source technologies, and like they're the only one, especially with now Meta, like basically downscaling their open source efforts. The only real significant efforts open source when it comes to open weight models is coming from China. So I think the reality will be that large enterprises in Europe, for example, but also like research institutes will use these models to build solutions on, or to retrain or fine tune new models on, right?
Yeah, I don't think that they should, right? I feel like if they're not, they're also leaving stuff on the table, right?
And that does help like build that trust relationship again.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, if anything, it's definitely bringing attention to China that they can build really good AI models, right? Like I think and I think if you ask the beginning of the OpenAI, I mean, before DeepSeek, really, or maybe not really before DeepSeek, but like not that long before DeepSeek, I think people weren't looking at China for this
No, they were looking
expertise, right?
Just when you people were just thinking about Temu and that you could buy stuff for cheap there.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly, right. So,
but it didn't like link to like there's quality and high tech, and this is if you want the last state of the art, you need to look there, right? Like you didn't have this reflection.
Exactly. And I think today that's the case for sure for
big change in
LLMs,
the last
right?
years.
One thing also I saw, I wasn't going to bring this article up, but I also read a bit since we talked about Kimi K2 thinking. Basically, the guy had like 5 thoughts, right? So open models release faster. So he was saying like he feels like these open source models are being released at a faster pace than OpenAI and Claude. I think maybe the thing for me is like, because it says release faster, I think when you release faster, the expectation is not as high as well. So I feel, and maybe that's also something, maybe the OpenAI models or the Claude, I don't know that's as much, but I know for OpenAI, there was also some backlash, right? That the GPT-5 there was a long wait before they released it. And when they did, some people were disappointed.
think you can argue that OpenAI and Anthropic are still a lot bigger than the companies behind these models, and that they also have a larger user base, and that they need to do some more rigorous testing so that the experience stays good. And I mean, don't think it's as straightforward, right? To
No.
just simply say like they're faster or slower to release a new model.
I see. The other thing they mentioned is there's a lot of vibes, right? So user behaviors, but they say like they are very strong on the benchmarks. And that's probably what the Chinese are also, maybe also in the speed, right? Like they look more a bit at the key benchmarks, which is also maybe the way to go as well. He talks about China's rise, which I think we already talked about. One thing he talked about as well is the thinking with many Tucows. So I don't know if actually the other models works like this, the reasoning models from OpenAI, right? But it's a bit of this mix between the two things that seems a bit novel, at least.
Yeah.
And the last thing, and that's what I think we're discussing, that's also what I wanted to ask you. Like, do you think there is a lot of pressure on the American labs like OpenAI, Anthropic, and Gemini?
I think definitely. Yeah.
Do you think this is...
that's what I'm saying. Like I think the LLM models themselves, they are getting closer to being a commodity and like interchangeable.
Yeah.
And how you need to compete today is like having one of the best models, or at least like outperform in a specific domain, like Anthropic does with coding.
Yeah.
Plus, if like the whole tool chain around that to make it usable for the type of customer you're aiming at, right? Like if it's B2C or B2B, like you need to really go the next mile on everything around the LLM model, not just having the best LLM model.
Yeah, true. I'm also wondering because OpenAI also is OpenAI has a lot of revenue, right? But not necessarily like I heard that OpenAI has still like big debt, and they're actually not making a lot of profit. It's just that they make money, but they burn a lot of money as well, like with all the data centers and all these things. I'm also wondering like if it's like a risky bet, because they see these like open models coming, and like if it becomes a commodity and they don't have moat as well, like I don't know. I wonder if it's a tricky situation for them.
Yeah, the whole OpenAI being overcommitted is maybe another story. But like OpenAI is saying that today, the most recent statement of Sam Altman is that they're doing 20 billion in ARR. So annual recurring revenue, that is. But at the other side, they have committed to invest 1.5 trillion in data centers. And like the world is questioning, like, how can you pay for this in the coming years if you're only doing 20 billion? And like there are plans to go to multiple million of hundreds of billions of dollars over the coming years. Like it's still far from being able to pay for 1.5 in commitment. I think that is also like why we today have a lot of discussion on, is there a bubble or not that will pop?
Yeah,
right.
True.
At the same time, like I also think like it's a strategic investment, and that's also what you see. Like this is then maybe the everything around an LLM, because what OpenAI is doing is they're buying a lot of compute power, and I can very well imagine that companies in the future, when you are a big enterprise, that you're not just buying access to the model, but also buying access to your own compute power, which definitely not everybody has, right? But which OpenAI will have in the future.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see how it unfolds, the AI bubble.
That's true. And like you said, OpenAI is becoming more and more than just an model provider, right? They're starting to do more things as well. So to be seen. Next, we have the FBI obtained a court order compelling Registrar Tucows to hand over customer data tied to Archive.today, the web archiving site often used to bypass paywalls. Hayes says the document's authenticity isn't verified, spotlighting murky jurisdiction, the operator's identity, and possible chilling effects on archiving. So Archive.today, Bart.
So Archive.today, it has a few other TLDs as well. I think Archive.is. I think there's another one. What we're seeing here is that there's basically the FBI is looking into it. And so what does it do? Archive.today is if you have let's say a link to a news article that is behind a paywall, someone that has a subscription can basically say to Archive.today, please save this snapshot, and then everybody else can just look at it without having to go through the paywall. I, and probably you as well, we look at a lot of articles, and a lot of times there is a paywall, so I won't confirm nor deny that I sometimes use this. But for certain cases, it's very interesting. I think the concern from the community, and because I think there's a lot of users on this, concern from the community is that if Tucows, which is the provider of which is basically behind I think the Archive.today domain, if they give the information on the owner to the FBI, that no one really knows what this means, right? Like if this person is found and whatever that means for the person, but we don't really know if there's a person behind it, whether there's a team behind it, if this person falls away, does it still exist? What is the impact on the other domains? There's also a onion domain, like is it linked or not? Like if this person falls away, does the infrastructure still exist or not? Like brings a bit into question what the longevity of the platform is. And no one really knows because it's very vague, because it's also on very gray legal grounds, of course, this whole thing. So it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. What I also found interesting, following the discussion on this a bit on Reddit, but also on Hacker News, is that you have a lot of people like up in arms saying we need freedom of information. This belongs to the people. This belongs to the global population, which I think is fair, right? Like, I wish everything was open. But at the same time, like in another situation, like it's probably the same people that are saying OpenAI or Anthropic should not be allowed to just scrape everything and just take everything because there's copyright. And like, it's really like, it feels a bit like if it's like a Robin Hood for a good thing, then it's okay to do these things.
Yeah.
If it's a big corporation, then it's against the people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it was very interesting to read this discourse on it, like, because it's like I say, like it's a completely different discourse than you have with these copyright cases on these big corporations.
Yeah, true. Well, yeah, I feel like just because no one's profiting from this, it's like people say it's okay. We should allow.
Yeah,
this,
maybe that's the significant difference here. That is a fair point.
Yeah. But I listened to a podcast and there was one guy, I don't remember who it was, but it was something about archiving the internet as well. And I think he explained a bit why he started to use it. And I think he said he was in China, and I think they started archiving the internet because in China there's a lot of censorship. So sometimes there was an article and literally like you wouldn't be able to read it later.
Okay, interesting.
So I think he had like a Chrome extension to really just like start archiving stuff. And they talk a bit about like why this is also important, right? Because that's also my question. Like, okay, today, maybe the most value this brings is that people use it to get past paywalls, which arguably it's already wrong, right? Because you should pay for the author's work. If this goes away, what are we losing? Why shouldn't we, aside from the paywall thing, why should we fight for an internet archive?
Well, I think the case that you discussed, like if you're living in a country where there is the big firewall and you're blocked from everything, I think the argument doesn't really fly there because they will probably also block Archive.today, right? Like give extra, it doesn't give extra access or extra view on what is happening in the world. I find it a hard one, to be honest. But maybe I'm not thinking from the right point of view. I'm thinking from my own point of view, and I see why, for me, and especially in my situation where for this podcast, we're looking at a lot of different news sources every week. Like it wouldn't be possible to pay for all these things, right? Like then we wouldn't be, like if we would have to do that, we wouldn't be making the podcast because it was just not realistic.
Yeah, true. Do you feel like almost looking at the internet history as inherited somehow, like how websites they were before and what do you find almost like a big public library, everything that was written? I mean, it's never everything, but like imagine that there were retro websites or some things that like you would like to have recorded somewhere. Do you see value in these things as well, or maybe less than?
Well, you're basically referring to archive.org, right? Which is like an official
Archive.org, yeah, that's true.
The actual internet archive. It's not used to bypass paywalls, but you can archive basically any website, and it does a lot of automatic crawling. I do think there is a lot of value in that, to be honest, especially when you look at it long term. Like I think the way that people remember history is very flexible, very influenceable also by the messages that you give to people in the present. And I think therefore it's good to have like an archive of everything that is written down, of as much as possible of that is written down. And today, a lot of what is being written down is digital. And to
Yeah,
me, like
indeed.
the Internet Archive is like an extension of the physical library network that we have across the globe, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So I do think there's a lot of historical value in that.
More for the actual archive, but then maybe this side satellite
Well, I think
archives.
the Archive.today, which again, like you can use it to bypass paywalls, like it gives access to information that is not going to get archived on the Internet Archive, and that I think you can make the same argument that it's super valuable to have this stuff that is written down, even if it is behind a paywall, for like accurately reflecting what happened historically. The problem here is like that there's a legal and copyright component to this.
Yeah, true.
But I also
Yeah.
do think, like, if we say that it's at the corpus level, at the commercial level, we say, fuck everything and Anthropic and OpenAI and everybody, like, they can scrape the whole world and so be it, and they can profit from it, then this should also be possible. I don't think
Yeah,
that
for
there
sure.
should be a discussion on that.
For sure. And I think it's also maybe the last thing I'll say on this as well is like, if we had a subscription and we share the subscription, is it because in some ways, like there's someone that is paying for it and they're kind of sharing the content, they're choosing to share the content with the internet.
And maybe you can there like you're saying you have a subscription to the Financial Times and you share this with others via Archive.today, basically, right? Like you share the content, and you can maybe make the parallel there, like with the Anthropic buying a book and training on the book, and like everything that's created because of that, like is shared with the world, like, and they profit.
Exactly. Yeah, indeed. That's a bit.
I think the whole big difference with the legal aspect here is like these big LLM operators, they have the money to basically put legal advisors on this and drag this along for a long time, and at a certain point settle. The person behind Archive.today, if he tomorrow gets a big fine or he's jailed, like it stops to exist, right?
Yeah, that's it. Game over. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Which also feels a bit even more unfair because this guy's probably not profiting from this, whereas the big LLM providers are.
No, I can imagine someone that is behind Archive.today, so that's really out of a fundamental belief that there should be freedom of information.
Exactly. Yeah, like a big guy with like a big beard, long hair, not a lot of sunlight, it's like for the people.
Probably like a Wikimedia sticker somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. All right. What's next?
Hugging Face's Smol team published a hands-on playbook distilling what actually worked in training small yet competitive LLMs, from data curation and loss curves to post-training and reliability. It reads like field notes for practitioners with checklists, pitfalls, and system lessons that invite debate about trade-offs.
Yes, so this is from the Hugging Face team. I saw coming on LinkedIn from, I think, the CTO of Hugging Face, I want to say. So it's the Smol training playbook, Smol, SMOL. So it's it's like their brand, I guess, on the whole everything LLM, right? They also have small agents and all these things. And then it's quite said the secrets of building world-class LLMs. So he did mention, like in the LinkedIn post, it was mentioned as like as an ebook kind of, but if you click, right, it kind of shows more as a blog article, I guess, or like as an article, like a very long article. And basically this is everything that you would need to know, maybe a lot of asterisks, right, if you want to train your own models.
Interesting.
So they talk about fine-tuning the data, the importance of finding the right data, the different strategies, the different model architectures. So there's a lot of stuff. I didn't read the whole thing, right? But I thought it would be like it's an interesting resource for people that are curious on how these models get set up. We also talked about how China has been getting really good at training these models as well and opening the weights. So this is also a bit of that. It's a bit of like a comprehensive playbook. So they even talk about like the infrastructure.
A bit like
exactly
how this gets made, and
I think we are in a place now that we do have more people coming and training their models and like sharing a bit more how they're doing, right? So I feel like there is a bit of a convergence, right, on the architectures and how to go about all these things. right? But even like the infrastructure, like what kind of GPUs you want, how much you can expect, how much data you need to get a good
Interesting.
model, finding the right data set, right? Post training as well, if you want to fine tune it later. I would imagine even things like how to run the inference as well, what kind of infrastructure you're looking for. They also talk about reasons why you should not train a model. So things like we have compute available, everyone else is doing it, we want the best model possible, or AI is the future. They're not good reasons to train your models, right? To train your own models, let's say. But again, they kind of go on and on. I think the one on the architectures, I also thought it was quite interesting, but I need to find it as well. But they basically talk like mixture of experts. What does it mean? The dense networks, or like all these different things, right? So I do expect this. So I can hear they have architecture choices. They talk about attention, embedding, sharing, so stability of these models, the going sparse, so the mixture of experts, excursion. So there's a lot of stuff. And I think I saw also in the introduction that this is a bit the look behind the scenes of training Smol LLM3, a 3 billion multilingual reasoning model trained with 11 T tokens. T, I guess, here is thousands? I don't know.
Trillion?
Trillion? I guess it's trillion. Yeah, it should be trillion. So yeah, so I think they kind of basically did something themselves. I think they probably did their research. They have like a lot of authors here, and then just kind of published this as an ebook.
Yeah, it's
kind of.
important to have these information sources available.
For sure. And I think Hugging Face, they already had some stuff. So again, it feels thick, right? So I think I would expect you need to have already some background in the mathematics of AI and how these things go. I do think it's very technical, but I do think it probably has a lot of interesting.
I think what's interesting is that there is this combination of how does everything work, but also how do you apply it? And I think the latter, like how do you apply it, is very time sensitive, right? Like there are different inference frameworks, like the hardware evolves very quickly. So I think this combination of things is very interesting to have available to the public at large.
That is true. That's very true. I imagine that like next year it will be very different, and maybe even now, right? Like someone can read this and say, we could also make a package that can take care of 30% of these things, right? Which actually there was some things from Microsoft that also mentioned this.
Maybe also a shout out to Karpathy that did something similar. It's not really a guide, but it's like a very simplified implementation of something that looks and feels like ChatGPT. It's called NanoChat, and it's basically like a full stack implementation. So it does the tokenization, pre-training, fine-tuning, evaluation, inference, web serving. So you also have this simple chat interface. So that's really like from nothing and end up with a ChatGPT-like interface. If you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of how this is done, like you can just try to understand this repository and try to re-implement it for yourself. And that's, I think these type of learning resources are very important.
Yeah, I think it's also cool to kind of, I think that's also the cool thing about programming in general. That's one of the reasons why I enjoy programming so much. It's like, it feels, and I think for LLMs, maybe it's a bit of an exception, but if I did mechanical engineering before, right? So a lot of the stuff you learn is like, okay, you learn about it, but you can't really test it out, right? You can't just go ahead and just do it yourself and then really look under the hood and really see how the cheese is made and stuff, right? Like, and I think for programming and LLMs, okay, there's a big cost, right, for the inference and stuff, or for the training, for the infrastructure. But there's still like these things, right, that you can actually go ahead and look at the code and everything's available to you, right? There's no secrets here. You can really kind of go as far as you want, really, right? And keep digging. So yeah, it's really cool. I had actually seen in passing the NanoChat as well, but I haven't really looked that much into it as well. Question: do you think that the future is people training their own models, actually? Or maybe the better question is how long in the future, how long will it take before people actually start thinking, I need to train my own models now?
I really doubt that you will ever do this as an individual, but I do see, especially with also, with all this information being out, with compute becoming cheaper, not being cheap, but cheaper, with also a lot of base models available, open weights that you can start from. I do see large, maybe also state-backed organizations building their own models. Yeah. Like we've seen, for example, examples of European initiatives to have a sovereign LLM model, like these type of things. I can see this happening, for example, also at large financial institutions.
Yeah.
But I
So
think
probably like
today it takes too much time and effort and expertise to do it.
yeah. So you think like maybe in the future, the big companies then make sense to have something very private, and or like governments, right? Which also makes sense to have something very private, right? Having full
But I
ownership.
think it will take time because they do exist, these initiatives. Like you had, I forgot the name. It was a European initiative. It was led
From the
by
Netherlands, no?
a Italian research organization. But
There's
when you
also a
really,
Swiss one, I think.
yeah,
No?
it's another one. It's another one.
Uh,
But when you look at the output, like it's never really satisfying. Like the performance of these things. Like I think it's still a bit early days for this. Like
yeah.
I think it's not. You need a lot of high concentration of both expertise and compute power to pull this off and to build something like the new Kimi model that we discussed, right?
Yeah. Maybe instead of training something from scratch, do you think there's a nearer future where people need to know how these things work to fine-tune models? So you can take a Kimi, but you want to train it for your customers or your,
I
I
think
don't
that's
know.
much more achievable. Yeah, I think that's
And you think it's
what we.
realistic that more people we need resources like this
I think
to
it's
get
already
these
been
things
done.
more. Yeah.
I know of some financial institutions that are doing this. I'm a little bit skeptical these days on whether it's worth the effort because it's still a lot of effort. And most likely the next big general LLM that is coming out has better out of the box performance than what you're currently fine tuning.
Today is better to just wait for the next iteration, right?
Yeah, I think maybe until we get hit a bit more diminishing returns.
Yeah. And you don't think it's going to come, the diminishing returns will be anytime soon?
Well, this is a very debated topic, right?
Yeah.
I know that there are a lot of people that are saying that it's not really improving already. I completely don't agree. But I think what this very much improving is like the combination of things, like the LLMs themselves are improving, the whole tool chain around it, the whole tool calling around it, the integration of how these tools communicate with each other is improving. Like, and if you use this for coding, for example, if you use Claude today versus Claude a year and a half ago, like it's a day and night difference, even though people are saying, "Oh yeah, but we're not really improving them all the time." But it's a day and night difference.
Yeah, true. No, I agree. Think it will take a while before it makes sense to really do all these things as well. All right, and last but definitely not least, we have a pair of ex-Meta designers launched Sendbar's Stream, a voice note smart ring positioned as a quote-unquote mouse for voice with an AI companion app and discrete gesture controls. Pre-order starts at $250 or $300 with shipping planned for next summer, and the startup has raised $30 million from True Ventures upfront and BetaWorks. So another ring, Bart.
Yeah. So even though I lost mine, we are both smart ring users. We both have an Aura.
Yes.
That's also why I put it on there. Like
Just like
before I lost it, I was a
subconsciously.
fan of my Aura ring.
Okay. It kind of looks a bit like Aura Ring too, with the like
Yeah,
how
to me,
the top is that
this is
flex.
not really like design wise. Doesn't really look nice, right? Like this is like clearly like this is a piece of tech and they put it in the shape of a ring. Like it doesn't look like a ring, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But I think it's like, so for people that don't know, Aura Ring is like really focused on like sleep analysis, performance support, like these types of things. This new thing, a stream ring, something completely different. You can basically you can take voice notes, and I can imagine that you can also use it at some point to control other peripherals like your computer with your voice.
Yeah.
But you can basically whisper to your ring, and then it takes these notes. And you can also use it, I think, with your thumb on the ring to turn the volume up and down. So
Yeah.
to control other things. And I thought, to me, like something like this, if I would have this in my Aura ring, I would be super happy with features.
I would as well.
And so also the voice notes thing. So I want to use this, but I don't use it. So when I go running and I'm running for an hour, I sometimes have like an idea and I need to think of this, and then I have my AirPods in, and then I try to start making notes with Siri, and it's so shitty. But if I would have wear my Aura ring, I just keep it on my mouth, and close to my mouth, and I just whisper the notes. But like I think it would it would help me, right? Like, and also like something as simple as controlling voice. It's very intuitive if you can just do it with your
Yeah,
with
that's true. Having a little bit of like a little peripheral as well, I think that could
yeah,
also that could go both ways. I think it's funny you say that I think the creator, right, is the exact same thing. A lot of ideas bubble up when I'm walking or when I'm commuting. I don't want to pull out my phone interrupt at the moment. I don't want to shout into my earbuds so where the world can hear me and talk through an
exactly.
idea. Yada yada yada. So yeah, seems very very similar to your use case there as well. I wonder how the note taking works, but yeah. So they do have an app as well to take notes when you're taking notes with the ring. There is a microphone. There is like a little trackpad that you can turn the volume up, down, and a button. I do think as well if the Aura had something like this, it would be super cool. But I'm also wondering if how if it's possible. Like I would love my Aura to do this, but I wouldn't have two rings, you know?
No, I agree. Like it's like there's already a lot of hardware in an Aura Ring. I think it's hard to also put this in probably.
Yeah.
I would never wear, probably, well, never say never, right? I would not wear two smart rings, but I would be happy to have this as extra functionality. I would also don't think I would buy this just for these features because it's quite pricey,
Yeah.
right? It's between
Yeah.
it's 250
300. Yeah.
and 300 USD. That's a bit steep for just taking a note every now and then, right? Maybe
Yeah.
if I would be a journalist or something and I'm continuously like interviewing people and preparing stuff,
Yeah.
and it would maybe be different. Like if I have a very specific like related to my career use case to it, but now it's a bit
Yeah,
steep.
I'm also wondering if, like, I mean, there's some cool factor, I guess, that it's a ring, but I wonder if there are other devices that do similar things. That do you need this, you know?
I
Like,
think
if
the
it's really
difficult
just
thing
for
with
taking
smart
notes.
devices is like it's very hard to make it like not an obstruction to use, right? Like make it intuitive, and I think taking a note like just by bringing your finger to your mouth is super intuitive. Like it's
Yeah, that's true.
much less friction than like for me when I'm running and having to stop and get my
Yeah,
phone out of my running belt and then like
yeah.
it's super simple. I think that is what they did very smart here, right? Like it reduces friction.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Do you think that it's a bit hard for me to quantify though, because I feel like on one hand, I could think to myself, like, putting my hands in my pocket and pulling out my phone is not that much effort. But I can also see myself saying, like, it's not a lot of effort, but it makes a difference that it's just there. And I'm thinking, maybe not with the phone in your pocket, but maybe for something like a smart watch, which is something that a lot of people have as well. And maybe it's not that, and it's probably
Mm.
easier, right? To just kind of like
Well,
pop something and just talk on your
I
watch.
agree.
It's
I
also
think
there.
that I agree with you. Like for the example of the note taking is as easy on a smartwatch, right? I fully agree on
That's
that.
what I'm thinking. I mean, again, I say that, but at the same time, maybe I don't know. Maybe it's a bit awkward to put, I don't know, move your wrist or something. Maybe it is easier, but I don't know. I think it's cool. Again, but would I buy just because it's cool? Depends on the price.
At the same time, like I mean, if it would be this price to me is ridiculous for these features because it's like 250 to 300, and then a $10
Yeah,
monthly subscription. So that's a bit.
yeah,
I mean, for the few times that I take a note when I'm running, that's a
yeah,
bit steep.
exactly.
But like at the same time, if you would be able to buy this device for I don't know $30,
Yeah, true.
and it integrates nicely with your phone, like I mean, I would probably do it even just for the novelty,
Yeah, true. Just try it out, just to show off to your friends.
especially
Maybe
now I
one thing.
lost my Oura ring.
Yeah, right. You just buy that just to pretend like it is. Like, does your Aura ring have that? Can you touch on your ring? I shared it actually for next week, but maybe I'll just bring it up now because someone shared this one to me, and actually that's what I thought is Whisperflow.ai. Basically, so this is for speech to text, right? This is a Mac OS app, and it's it's not really just speech to text. It just doesn't write what you say. It's almost as if you have like a personal how do you say, like someone that types everything you're saying, like in a court or something. What's the name of that person? Is that
I know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, anyways, it's like you have a personal that, right? So if you have like a lot of ums, or sometimes you say something, so actually it's like, do you want to meet up tomorrow at 3? Actually no, 5. It will There's
Okay,
a little
nice.
buffer that it would just write exactly what you want. And what they show, there's a
So there's
video.
some redaction to textual
Yeah,
output.
exactly. But very light, right? Very light redaction.
Wow.
So they also mention how if you have, I think they probably, I don't know if they take the context of what you're writing. So they also say it gets all the names right as well. So like the name here, Saraj, it also gets picked up correctly with something that with normal speech to text is difficult. There are some features. Oof, why is it not playing now? There are some features as well for coding. So if you start to mention like file types here, it integrates with the IDE. So the IDE already snaps the right files there. Yeah, they also mentioned there's an iOS app. The last thing that mentions that even if you're actually whispering, so already thinking of people at an office, right, where you don't want to be talking the whole time, that it actually gets, apparently is very sensitive and it gets, well, like
Okay.
maybe there's a mole or something. And also even for multiple languages. So there's some
And
some cool features.
did they train their own model, or are they?
That I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it's difficult to say.
It's interesting. Yeah. There are a lot of these, let's say, typically based on Whisper applications that simply do speech to text, right? But the redaction is a nice.
Yeah, I think so. I think I mean, again, I have that problem that sometimes I think as I'm writing. So if I have something just to talk, it's too fast.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
But I did think it was an interesting in between of just like writing everything you're saying. But I say a lot of like or ums or something that probably don't want it to be written like that. But it's not the same as if I just talk to a ChatGPT and say, I want to say these things, just write this in a text, right? It's a bit of a in between, which I thought it was interesting, but can't say that I've tried. So I don't have any first-hand opinions here.
Okay.
And that's it. Anything else?
No, if you're interested to follow us, do subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, or sign up to our newsletter over at newsletter.monkeypatching.io. And a big thanks to everybody for following.
Yes, in the future, near future, we'll have some guests as well. Like you said, you already hinted at one in the end of the year. So stay tuned. If anyone has any comments, questions, thoughts, suggestions, feel free to reach us. And thanks everyone for listening. Thank you.
Ciao.